Hello everyone, my name is Stonesy Boy and welcome back to Reading with Stonesy. Today we are reading chapters 33 to 38, pages 163 to 183, with about 5 stops in between, but in reality it's 6 because we're starting on 33, which is confusing. But without further ado, because this next episode will be the final episode, but without further ado, let's begin. And also, I realized the full book reading, when we put all the books in a full book playlist, it's gonna be pretty freaking long of an episode or a video. I never acknowledge those videos, but yeah, it's gonna be pretty long. So, let's begin. Chapter 33. Harry sat in a lazy boy chair that applied outer nose an eyesore to Olivia, but he rated the Toronto Blue Jays on the TV. A once hot coffee sat forgotten beside him. He complained about her bitterly Blue Jays and her inconsistent performance. She feigned interest and needled him from time to time with phrases like, "Well, if the owners cared," or "That guy was always getting injured, isn't he?" setting Harry off on another triad of why individuals should own teams and not corporations. According to Harry, corporations cared about money first and the World Series as an afterthought. They were in the last couple weeks of the season. The Blue Jays would not be playing any postseason games. They were too low in the standings. Olivia grinned at Harry espoused his opinion on the sorry state of Blue Jays baseball. Baseball bored Olivia, and the game could never hold her interest, and she suspected it never would. Her dad loved it, and so she suffered through it, and tried to amuse herself in any way she could. She would sit on the couch, her feet tucked under her with her latest book in her hand. Brutus dozed off on the floor under her. She enjoyed the moments of normalcy. The phone rang and decided not to interrupt her dad's time was with her disappointing Blue Jays. She answered the wall-mounted one in the kitchen. It surprised her to notice the darkness outside. Since her escape, she'd been obsessively aware of the dark. Today she had paid any attention. Other sign of healing? She hoped so. Hello? Olivia? Hey, Davis, what's going on? We got him. The rec center guy. We're bringing him in now. I just wanted you to know before I interview him. Flustered, Olivia didn't know how to respond, and so she remained silent. Olivia? She said, "Is it he the jackal?" "Well, right now it's pretty circumstantial. We mostly got is coincidence, but the guy is going to get full treatment. Financials, background checks, freaking grade school records. We're going to get as much as we can. By the end of it, he'll think an enema is less intrusive. What? His name? Darcy Bowles. Mean anything to you?" "No, nothing." "Hey, Davis, yeah? Do you think it's him? Do you think he's the jackal? It doesn't look good for him, that's for sure." "If you're asking for a definite answer, I can't give you one right now. I need more information. We need to process his DNA after we get a warrant for it, of course. I'll tell you what it's through. You want to know where we picked him up?" "Yeah, a block from Lucy's place. Just strolling around, heading towards her home, we think." "Were you guys watching him?" "Just found out who he was earlier today. Once we knew we had a few guys set up on him. We decided to bring him in when we saw heading to Lucy's in case he was planning to, like I said, this guy looks good. But listen, I gotta go. I'll let you know more tomorrow. Just one more thing. Did he have a mask with him?" "No, it could be in his house, though, if he still has it. It'd be pretty ballsy to carry around outside with him. We're trying to get a warrant for his house, too. He still has it. He wouldn't get rid of that if it's who he wants to be, but I'll let you go. Thanks, Davis. Thanks for the call." She hung up. Harry stood near her. "When did he leave the TV?" Harry said, "What's up? You look a little peaked." "That was Davis. They think they got the jackal." "That's good news, right?" "Yeah, definitely. Only I don't think it'd be this easy." "It seemed easy to you." "No, well, I don't know. I was kind of hoping he'd be killed. Resisting arrest or some shit like that. He had to feel good about him. Suicide by cop instead of capture. I can't picture him going to jail. Not willingly, anyways." "Cheer up. Who knows? Maybe someone will murder him in prison." Olivia, shaking, began to cry. Harry pulled her into a hug. "I don't know what to do. They think they have him, but they can't say for sure. I don't know what to think. I should be relieved, but I feel so anxious I want to scream." "Okay, nothing has changed, honey. We'll keep doing what we're doing until Davis calls back and says they definitely got him. Until then, don't let our guard down." She controlled her breathing, listening to her dad's heart in her chest, and wishing she didn't feel so terrified all the time. There were times when, lounging with Brutus, she forgot about the basement, about ripping Grady's neck open with her teeth and tasted the smell of his hot blood jetting down her throat. There were moments when she forgot about the jackal, how stupid of her, and how naive. Those events forever shaped her. Those ugly, terrible men were part of her, forever, altering her thoughts of safety and how she thought of herself. She couldn't help but think the jackal wasn't done with her yet. To believe him to be caught and sitting in jail didn't seem right. It didn't seem too easy. Maybe she built it up in her mind and something more because of what she went through. A towering event in her life ending not with a bang but with a quiet whisper. Suddenly tired, she pulled away from her dad and told him that she was going to bed. She walked down the hall to her room, patting the knife at her belt. Brutus padded behind her. She sat on her bed and put the knife under her pillow. She hadn't done that for a while, but it felt right to do so tonight. She slept in her track pants and sweater. Harry had turned on the AC the minute he walked in the door. She couldn't decide if the AC caused a deep chill inside her or the talk of the jackal. Either way, she climbed into her bed and pulled the covers up to her chin. She reached over to turn the bedside lamp and paused her finger at the switch. She retracted her hand and thought tonight she would sleep with the light on. Her mind burned with rampant thoughts. Brutus lay in his dog bed, eyes watching her doggy concern. I'll be alright, fella. His tail twitched. Sleep arrived unexpectedly, amidst heavy worry. Chapter 34. Lucy was arguing with her parents when Davis called her. Mostly arguing with her dad. She wanted to go out and didn't want to be driven around by her dad, which he insisted on doing. To act so surely, squinty-eyed bodyguard, terrorizing people who dared approach her. It wasn't her fault she was taken. It wasn't her fault she felt so much guilt because of it. She wanted to go out and meet a friend for coffee. A boy, a cute one, who was interning at CBC News. He had been backstage giving her an eye wearing one of those head mics, talking to whoever, flashing her a smile now and then. After her interview, she put on her coat and she walked up to her, gave her his card while holding on to it a little tight, so he could touch her hand, and she liked that a lot. He called him and started flirting, and it progressed until Jen got herself killed. Maybe it wasn't accurate, more like the jackal killed her. Point being, her dad went ballistic, and instead of driving her everywhere and being her annoying shadow, that definitely put a crimp on her social life. How do you go on a date with your dad following you around? Short answer, you don't. So the intern, Trevor, was losing interest, and Lucy thought, why would he? His phone convos and clever texts are fine for the while, but not forever. She needed a human touch, and judging from Trevor's text, he needed it too. And her dad was ruining everything, and he didn't care. He was holding a phone in her hand, waving it to her dad at a century point, saying, I'm going to live here forever, aren't I? Become an old cat lady. No husband or boyfriend, just a house full of stinky fucking cats. You know I hate cats. I don't want to be a cat lady. You're overreacting. I'll drop you off. I'm not going to stare at you, but I'll be close by, and when you're done, I'll give you a lift home. What's the big deal? The big deal, Dad, is... The phone threw it in her hand. She jumped, staring at it with her mouth open. Her dad said, are you going to answer or eat it? She glared at it, nodded, and said, yeah, but this is to be continued. Lucy slid her thumb along the answer button and said, hello? Davis told her the same thing he did Olivia. He interrupted them when they said they arrested the guy just down the street from their house. Us outside? You're kidding me. He wasn't. Olivia understood what was possible. They didn't have the jackal in custody. Lucy chose to believe what they caught him. To her, they got the guy, and she could finally go out with her dad breathing down her neck. The jackal had been caught, and she got gloriously free. She hung up the phone, beaming with such immediate suspicion from her father. What? They got him. They got the jackal. Really? Yeah, that was the cop. Well, who is he? He waved her hand dismissively. Darcy something or another. You don't remember his name? Yeah, I think it was Darcy, didn't I? Then can we know more? He said he called later with the details. Right now they're interrogating him. Hope they beat the fucker. Her mother in the other room yelled, dear language. He rolled his eyes and said, sorry, honey, but did you hear? They got the prick. What? That's great news. So, Dad? Yeah. Can I have the keys now or what? Chapter 35. Davis studied Darcy in the TV monitor. He wore an expression of a man who had been bonked on the head, a perpetually stunned face. Davis frowned, and all sure the man sitting in the interview room wasn't the jackal. If he is, then he's the world's best actor. A few years back, an investigator once told her there is no such thing as coincidences, and the saying had proven true to Davis, man. But sometimes, very rarely, a coincidence was a fact of coincidence. And this man, sitting on a chair, offering stuttering and vehement denials, had the distinct odor of innocence to him, a scent Davis detected early in the interview. Darcy had a broken man, busted apart by the events beyond his control. The story he offered was checked out in every way, and the more concerning part was, it made sense. He did not project the air of the man capable of the acts the jackal had done. He didn't have the arrogance to skillfully manipulate a man like Sean Grady to his will. The perseverance wasn't there. Darcy wanted to disappear, disperse into the background, escaping notice and being spared of the uncomfortable action of conversation. Physically, he appeared less matched, tall, lean, and strong. That was the only way he compared to the jackal in Davis' mind. Darcy avoided eye contact, not in the way a guilty person would, where the eyes were slightly whenever a tough question needed to be answered. No, Darcy didn't like to look people in the eye. It made him very uncomfortable because it was too direct. Davis believed it would be He would how he talked to anyone, and not just because he was at the police station being questioned and suspected serial killer. What do you think? He our guy? His direct supervisor, Sergeant Ben Arturo, stood with him, without watching Darcy stare into his lap. Ben held a coffee in his hand. David could smell tobacco smoke on him. He must have some just come in from outside. From the interview? I'd say no, but I have been fooled before. Did he consent to giving a DNA sample? Yeah. On video? Yeah. Sweet. Consent could prove tricky to deal in court. They wanted to know if the consent was truly voluntary, if the person giving in understood their right to refuse and the potential consequences. For big cases, Davis didn't believe using consent as evidence. He would rather go by the way of warrant, and he did a time or two. He still applied for the warrant. I told him I could be getting one for his DNA, and he offered it right then, no hesitation. And that worries you? Davis turned to Ben. It doesn't worry you? He sighed. Yeah, it does. Why can't ever be easy? I know. What do you have to say about the rec center and the university at Lucy's house? Can't be all coincidence, man. I normally agree with you, but Davis shrugged his shoulders. Shh. Yeah. What are they waiting on now? The DNA warrant's been signed. Just waiting for a tech to sample. They're gonna put a rush on it, and they could match the fingerprints to the ones with the lift in the house right away. The DNA takes a little longer, as you know, a couple of days at least. I'll tell you, boss, I'm not very hopeful. When we first got him, I fist punched the air, you know? I was pumped. Now I got a bad feeling, a real bad feeling. I remember those. They suck. Agreed. What's his story, anyways? What do you say about being at the rec center? Darcy'd been going there for years. He'd like to take his daughter, Lisa. I know where he's going. She's dead, ain't she? No, but that's exactly what I thought when she started talking. He woke up one day, went to work. When he came home, his wife and kid were gone. She just took the daughter and moved back home with the States with her family. And the daughter was born there, so now he can't go back to her. She won't even let him see her. What's this have to do with the pool? Before his life split with Lisa, she used to take her swimming all the time because she loved it. By the way, we checked and Lisa Biles was registered for swimming lessons for 2 years, right around the time Olivia worked there. After his wife left, he went to the pool to sit nearby. He would close his eyes and listen to the kids laughing. Sometimes I would hear a laugh very similar to Lisa's, and he pretended she was back. He said for the time it helped with the pain. Was Olivia there when he went back himself? Yes. See, Olivia worked there. He used to bring his daughter for the swimming lessons. She wouldn't remember him then. Why should she? He was like any other parent in the pool, dragging off the kid when they got out of the water and yapping at other parents about how special their kid was. But she would notice a man hanging out of the pool without any kids. It would be something people noticed because it borders on creepy. This all checks out? Yep, tracked down his ex-wife. They were never married, kind of like, oh shit, you're pregnant, so let's get live together type deals. One of our guys spoke to her and the timeline was right. Damn, yep. Did she say why she left? Davis smiled. She said she couldn't stand Canadian weather. Hates the cold. Hates how in one day you can go 4 seasons, snow, rain, sun, and hail. Huh, she's right. Our weather can do that. Some parts of the States are like that too, though. Why didn't she bring Darcy with her? She was too nice. Too nice, is that a thing? I guess. He'd do anything for Lisa and her. He never got mad or miffed at whatever he asked him to do. He didn't think it was normal. She said she likes a guy with some backbone. A super nice guy? The guy we pegged as a serial killer as a super nice guy? Davis shrugged and said, you know what he does for a living? No, what? He's a contractor. That's good, right? He'd be able to build a basement like that. He'd know how to do it. Yes and no. He said he had a job in Guelph at the time of Olivia's abduction. During work in university, some students ruined one of his dorms as they hired him to fix it up. He just finished one day the students were packing back at school. We can prove this? Gulf University keeps records that far back, so yeah, we can, and it did prove it. Fuck. Exactly. Even if he is our guy, the defense has great reasons as to why he was where he was. If it's him, there's no excuse in the world. It would explain why his DNA and fingerprints were inside the torture house. Davis said, I think by now we both know it won't be. God damn it. They shared a moment of disappointment. Ben said, what are we talking to Lucy's house? What he have to say about that? He lives in the area. He went for a walk. We spoke with a few neighbors. It's not uncommon for him to go out for walks. Turning into a real clusterfuck, isn't it? We were all about kissing your ass, graduating you in your awesomeness. That option is still viable. Here, drop my pants for you. You can be the first to kiss it. I'll pass on your ass. You're a goddamn poet, Sarge. Man with many talents. That's me. So what's next? We could work on it like he's our guy, like we're certain he's not. The fingerprints and DNA would prove it either way, and conclusively, I have no other leads to follow. Alright, I have to report to the inspector. She won't be happy. Davis nodded and said, I'll be here for a while. I have a few follow-up questions to ask. Ben stepped out of the room, and so Davis thought he'd gone. Ben poked his head back in and said, So, you're sure he's not our guy? I'll be sure when we get the DNA, but I have to say, at this point, this boy picked out. We've proven that much of it. Poop. Yes, poop. Call it if you need anything. Will do. Sergeant Benaturo notified the inspector of the disappointing news. The inspector, Mary Finch, had been preparing for a statement of the media. They were aware the police had made an arrest and were salivating for details. The inspector wanted to give it to them, and yet after speaking with Ben, she decided it would be pungent and vague. She would offer general nonsense. They were still investigating person of interest, blah blah, bullshit. She closed her eyes and said, Fuck. She squeezed the phone in her hand with frustration, turning her fingers white. She should call Dave, the man in charge of surveillance of Lucy and Olivia. After they arrested Darcy, they pulled the incredibly expensive security. She had been under enormous strain and keep justifying the expense. All she ever had to stifle her questions and quiet suggestions with the mentioned Jen, but it wouldn't last forever. She asked them. She could afford not to have the remaining girls watch. The media and the public were openly critical over Jen's death. Harry thought they had every right to be out, but kept an opinion to herself. She would have to get Dave and his men back for the security detail, especially after the shitty news of Darcy maybe not being their guy. It was late, almost 4 in the morning. Darcy had been out of custody for hours. She wanted to wake up Dave, but she had to. She called him. Dave answered, groggy and disappointment coloring her words, and she would get the team back out there. She hung up the phone, feeling positive about the decision. She crept back into the bed beside her snoring husband, wanting to squeeze in another hour before the alarm beat in her ear. She fell asleep, not knowing what made the call too late. They never should have pulled the surveillance. Chapter 36. The Jack almost shit his pants. Not quite, but something might have touched Cotton. He driving over Lucy's place, doing laps near her home, looking for the cops. Thought he might be there. They're all oblivious. Lucy wasn't as fearful as Olivia. He hadn't enough time to teach her to be. The Jackal knew if Lucy were after his dad would follow, especially at night. He didn't care about his dad. He looked soft, weak, a jiggled gut and a rounded back. The Jackal didn't think he would pose a problem. He would have to kill him to have more time before the cops discovered her gone. They found out before. The police would go into full panic mode if it would ruin the chances of taking Olivia too. He could consider taking Olivia first, but in the end decided against it. He wanted to leave the best for last. The Jackal was nervous, though. This was sloppy, and it was too much could go wrong. He would be lying to himself if she didn't admit it excited him as much as it scared him. If they got him, he would never get out. It would be an ironic end to them, considering he and Sean had done to the girls. But no, he couldn't go to jail. He couldn't last a week. Even though he kept the girls in little more than sales, he couldn't be himself in one. He couldn't even picture it in his head. It seemed impossible. He parked on the side street, turned off the van, and moved through the back out of the driver's seat. It would appear unoccupied while he had a view of Lucy's house. He didn't know how he'd do it, but not like what he did with Jen. Hers had been planned out. Lucy's abduction depended on her leaving the house. If she did, and she didn't think it would pull off creeping at her window and snatching her, it would be problematic. Unless he crept in and killed the parents first, he would punch a knife in their throats, let them bleed out, and then snag Lucy. He trembled at the thought, a sight of the night of blood. In the van, watching the yellow lights of the Lucy kitchen winked at them, and behind the curtains he ran through the options, and that was when he saw the police. 2 of them crept past his van. They were crouched low, Duck walking along the edge and staying in the windows. Jackal ground his teeth, thinking, "This is it. They got me." It was his guts gurgling. He needed crap twisting his insides. He making ready to jump in the driver's seat and drive off with squealing toddlers. And then the 2 police sprinted away from him. A black sedan flew down the street and squealed to a stop. 2 more cops, with police and Basil of the black reflective yellow, jumped out of the car and tackled a man on the sidewalk. 4 cops piled on top, and the Jackal could see the man's arm and the bottom flailing out. More cops fell onto the street and marked unmarked cruisers, blocking the road. All this was occurring less than a block from Lucy's front door. Jackal watched, muttering, "What the f***?" The man was picked up, hands cuffed, and behind the back led to a black and white up cruiser. The Jackal couldn't pick the man's features, but from the way he swung his head back and forth, twisting the officer's grip, he was confused and scared. He was stuffed in the back of the cruiser and drove away with a befuddled package in the back. A long line of cars following behind. 2 unmarked cars remained in the street. 4 plainclothes officers stood in front of their headlights talking. One of them pointed at Lucy's house. 2 of them high-fived each other, and then they all piled into the cars and left. The neighborhood returned to a quiet in an instant. No one stood at their porch watching. No one had noticed the drama on the street. It had happened too quickly for a crowd to gather. The Jackal frowned. What are they doing by Lucy's house? Why did one cop point at Lucy's house? It never occurred to him that the police thought the man they just arrested was him, the Jackal. His ego wouldn't allow it. Instead, he pulled out his binoculars and pointed at something he saw on the sidewalk. He focused on the lens until the object came sharper. Black hat with a yellow letter P on it. He checked his watch. 9:43 p.m. It would have settled in and wait. Maybe Lucy would come out on her own. If she didn't, he would go in and get her, and kill anyone in his way. It would prove to be a very interesting night. He would have to wait a while and watch. He had time. Chapter 37. Lucy's parents pestered her on the questions. She didn't have answers to, and in hindsight, maybe she would ask Detective Davis more questions. But she was too excited and wanted to take advantage of the Jackal's capture by going out with her dad following. They got him, right? It wasn't the important part. They wanted her to call Davis back and ask her more questions she would go tell. She called her. He had been busy and wanted to get off the phone just as much as she did. She did try calling back just to get the parents off her back, and then a voicemail message came up for the 5th time. Her parents shook her heads, muttering about the lack of communication with the police. They let her be after realizing there was nothing new to learn, and her dad reluctantly handed her the keys to the car. She texted Trevor that she didn't reply, but did he finally give up on her and he was now on a date? A woman without a psychotic, overprotective father wanted to go along. Lucy knew she was cute and how long she would expect the guy to wait for her. Catching sight of her reflection in the kitchen window, knowing she looked good, she thought Trevor would have waited a little longer. She was worth it. Oh well, she didn't want to pass up the night of freedom, and she decided to go to Tim Hortons, get a coffee and something sweet, like a cherry Danish. By then, Trevor, if he wasn't on a date, might see her text and get back to her. She sighed, a waste of someone as pretty as her going alone on a Friday night. You should be partying it up with friends, doing shooters at a bar, and picking up a man in the best abs to dance with. Although, on the surface, it wasn't obvious. The time she spent in the basement hadn't changed her. She was no doubting it, and her friends failed to return home as they came by to see her here and talk to her. It was different. Her oldest friend, Gwen, had asked her about the basement with wide eyes and a smile, threatening to tilt in the corner of her mouth, like she was hungry for it, and turn me on my page. Wanted to slurp down all the delightful humiliations Lucy suffered at the hands of the men. Gwen had tried to hide a smile, tried to snuff it down, but Lucy saw it and it killed something inside her. Lucy saw through the framed empathy and was disgusted by it. How would she used to be, or still was? Lucy's captivity to her friends was something to gossip about, something to reveal behind false smiles while they drank in torment of another. Callous and shallow, they should not see past Lucy's abduction affected them or how they garnished reflected the fame on it. They didn't see how cruel or fake empathy was, or even worse, didn't realize that they were fake. A mere imperception never penetrated past the skin. She lived every day with the night of fear and visit. She would fear the door open and she'd see 2 men enter with horrible masks. Sometimes they would show up in disrobe, and other times they would walk in wearing nothing but masks before they went to work on her. She didn't fight them. She would learn early the futility of it. She thought a gorilla man had dislocated her jaw in one punch at the time she had the nerve to resist. Under their violent tutelage, she became the realist. She played nice. He got to keep her teeth. They would pinch the tender parts, pull on even more tender places, and if she offered up a proper squeal, they would let her keep her nose. She thought, considering her choices, that was a fair trade. But how do you tell your friends that? And worse, how do you know your friends who haven't been able to learn such hard lessons could ever relate to such experience? To them, there was something interesting that happened to someone else. She soon realized she didn't like her friends. They represented who she used to be, and Lucy no longer the time of Asher's gossip mongers. Not anymore. She learned life to be snatched at any time, and she intended to live hers to the fullest without regrets. She refused to hide under a rock, and let the threat of the Jackal keep her prison without making. F*** that. That was no way to live. She scooped up the keys of her dad's car and checked her phone. She had no text from Trevor. She sighed. Tim Hortons it was then. At least it was a public place. The Jackal would have to be an idiot to nab her in such a place, especially wearing a mask. She chuckled at the thought. What the hell was she worried about? They got him, right? They hoped to get his ass raped in prison, and with a broken broom handle and crush a glass glued to it. Yeah, that would be about right. Bye, Mom. Bye, Dad. Her dad said, be safe, honey. She rolled her eyes. I will. Stepped down tonight and the keys in hand. There's a white van parked at the curb in front of her house. It was running. She frowned. The sodium orange streetlights illuminated the front seat area. There was no one inside. She slowed her walk, and her heart-moving walk with a sprint, and then a voice behind her, a voice she knew so well, called over the auto. Hey, Lucy Goosey, Daddy's back. Lucy turned over to mouse to scream, but he reached out. Pain shot through her. He couldn't control her body. Her legs wobbled on the ground and rose to meet her. Her head cracked off of the hard ground, and she lost time, confused. Then she slung over her shoulder as he was off with her. He yanked open one door, and inside was darkness. Chapter 38. Olivia's eyes popped open. Her pulse jumped, startled into activation. Action. She turned her eyes to the alarm clock. The green digital glow read 3:15 a.m. Why was it dark in her room? Harry must have been turned off before he went to bed. He had done it before, but what had awakened her? When she heard it, Brutus growling, she gripped the handle of her knife and slipped it under her pillow. She sat up, peering in Brutus' bed and the floor. After her eyes adjusted to the dark, she realized she wasn't in it. The growl sounded again, a low warning noise deep in his chest. He turned to the noise and saw him sitting in front of the closet. He stretched his nose toward it and emitted another growl. There was something in the closet. Not someone, the jackal. He was the boogeyman. He was a red-eyed demon in the closet. There was no escape. Olivia's mouth dried out, and her arid in any desert, and she thought of control against the growing tide of panic. Think. No alarm went off. What does this all mean? Dear Sherlock, she whispered. It means Mr. Wetson. There's no one in the damn closet. There can't be, because no one in the closet without first getting into the house. Yes, elementary. So why wouldn't Brutus stop growling at the closet? Hey, Brutus. Hey, Brutus. Brutus acknowledged her and twitched of her ears. He didn't turn his head. Vilvia frowned at the ridge of the hair and standing up and Brutus back in the moonlight. There's no way anyone or anything would get into the closet. Must be some animal under the house, stretching their way in, and they would smell food. Any other alternative isn't possible. Is that what it is, boy? You smelling an animal in there? Maybe a raccoon? That must be it. It wouldn't be anything else. Her hand loosened around the blade of the knife. She lay back down, determined to get back to sleep, but it wasn't so easy. First time since Brutus came to life with them when he acted this way. He wouldn't look at her, standing sentry over an empty closet. Why? Sweat drew along her line her temple. God damn it. It was feeling of fear never go away. Brutus was probably going in the damn mouse, as dogs like to do, and instead of turning over and falling asleep like a normal person, she imagined monsters in her closet, waiting for her to close her eyes, and her breath deepen so they could creep out and consume her with wide salivating jaws. Olivia couldn't equate herself with a normal person anymore. What happened to her forever changed her, physically and eternally, and what used to be a young, carefree girl, concerned with good grades and cute boys, no longer lived within her. She was damaged goods. She would forever be hiding in her hands less missing fingers now, or wearing her hair down in public to avoid eyes drawn to her missing ear hacked off by a maniac. Hell, she would even wear open-toed sandals at the beach. She could never forget or put his shit behind her. The mirror wouldn't let her. Any time she picked up a fork and knife, their missing digits would scream at her. Remember me, little lady? Don't even pretend you're normal. You don't even pretend you belong. She couldn't see herself sitting at the table in the coffee shop with the people around you, talking for the first word problems like they mattered, like they were problems. She couldn't comprehend what she had been through, and they wanted to because of the disruptive illusion of safety they created. And Olivia knew safety was just that, an illusion. She reminded them of the ugly side of life, a side that would swallow them whole, a place where you called out for murder to it. They didn't want her around as much as she didn't want to be around their insipid mutterings, but oh, how she would love to be one of them. When she could go back to sleep and ignore the growls and strange posture of Brutus, he wanted to return to the normal, not this maniac, anxiety-ridden woman who had never seen too much and had done too much to ever fit in. There's no do-overs in life. She couldn't go back to her before time in the basement. This is who she was. Time to quit fucking around, let up, and know what to do, and have to do whatever you want to do. Fuck it, she muttered. She placed her feet on the floor with her knife in hand and padded out in her room towards the office where she kept the security monitors and controls. She would have to play back the night and watch it, convince herself nothing crept upon her while she slept. She flicked on the light and sank into a chair in front of the house screen. She turned on the monitor and split screens revealed the outside world. Nothing moved, except for an old car. She reached down to pet Brutus. He wasn't there. The realization caused a trickle of fear to skim across her skin. He always came with her, even when she got out of the washroom. She heard a click of his nails on the tile behind her. She exhaled, clenching her hand around the shaft of her knife. If this was a damn raccoon or something, no need to freak out. She exhaled and then fiddled with the controls. Olivia went back 2 hours into the night of the video. They rendered for 1.5 speed. She will see nothing and return to bed. While tired, to be honest, and very annoyed with Brutus, it bugged her that he didn't follow her and nuzzle her hand, and the nose have coaxed some affection from her. It felt wrong. She clicked her nails against her teeth with one hand, and the other was poised on the mouse button, ready to pause if something appeared out of place. The screen had been divided in four views. They covered all sides of the house in overlapping views, not to spot the property that would be missed. She had been very specific about what she wanted. A good system, fairly inexpensive. She looked at her glance at the screen and peered down the hall. No Brutus. Was he still sitting in her room, growling at nothing? What she had read somewhere, dogs could sense supernatural, like ghosts and demons, but not just hippie nonsense to her. Even if a ghost did exist, what did she have to fear from the dead? The living were the ones with the sharpest teeth and the pointiest claws, in her experience. The living ones were just to be feared. On this screen, the shadow emerged. What was that? Her heart stuttered, as though it had been stun punched. She grimaced and pulled the knife at her towards her clutch like a pillow. She did see it, though. It was in a damn illusion. A shadow, moving from her fence, disappearing at her house. She rewound the feed, let it play. It was this time in slow speed. She leaned forward, its glow screen bright at her face. Her breath became sharp, burst. The pulse at her neck jumped at her skin. Because let it be an animal, please, please, please. On the other side of the chain-link fence stood a thick brush. She had long wanted it gone, and thought of cutting it down in the middle of the night because it hid too much. The problem was she was afraid of the night, and she didn't think her father would approve because the bush wasn't on the property. It was one spot without a clear view. It offered shadows and darkness. She got to get rid of pests of the property and obscuring foliage. The bush she couldn't get rid of grew a man, just below the bush on the sidewalk, and then the street of the bush on top of the incline. So even though it looked like a man sprouted from the bush, it was just him walking up the hill, growing taller in the bush with every step. It was going up a hill, man. He was walking towards their property. The man saw up the fence, her fence, and approached the side of the house. He moved with confident stealth. He passed her under Olivia's bedroom window, close enough to reach up and tap it on if he wanted. Then he disappeared. He could feel her pulse in her eyes. She breathed out, realizing she held her breath for the moment she saw the man. He wasn't wearing a mask, but it didn't matter, did it? Jacko would walk the streets with it on, would she? She rewound the video and watched it again, catching a glimpse of his face. Street lights shone in the back of him, so his face was a dark hole. She continued to watch and noticed he didn't pop up with the other camera. He had disappeared. Olivia said, "Where the f*** did he go?" Sensor light on the side of the house didn't even go on. He looked at the timestamp. The footage was 12 minutes old. The Brutus yelped in her bedroom. It sounded terrible pain, similar to a scream. She didn't know dogs could scream. Even though the Jackal knew this night would be entail all manners of risk, he could have found it unacceptable in the past. He had made a plan. He accepted the police surveillance around both those girls' homes. They had been there. Just recently as yesterday, he spotted the cops, and he wasn't impressed. They appeared to be bored and disinterested, and although they had changed their positions in regularity, they were still easy to spot. Had to know what to look for in the Jackal, and the Jackal learned it well. He believed some strategy and a little luck. He could take Olivia right out from under their nose. Wouldn't that be a pie in the face? He got hard thinking about it. The headlines would be furious. They would be more critical towards the police and would spew terror from every TV and newspaper in the country. And he would superstar. He would be right up there with Bundy, except for getting caught part. He would be Jack the Ripper of the generation. For years, people would wonder who he was. To slip in and out of both girls to escape detention, he needed to know the position of the police before he parked the van and made his approach. Then he got to Olivia's. He couldn't find them. No government-issued sedans and bored men in ugly ties trying to fight off sleep. He checked all the places they were, and before him, nothing. Where the f*** did they go? Were they on to him? Following him right with Lucy trussed in the back. He checked the mirrors as though he could pick out the police by headlights. He scanned every street he passed, careful to drive the speed limit. Sweat dotted his forehead, upper lip. Paranoia choked him. Tendrils of fear filtered through the veins. Had they somehow figured out who he was and where they were waiting for him to now park, and they surround him and tear him bodily from the van? He knew dumb luck would ruin anyone. You can be extremely careful, yet stupidest things can bring you down. A parking ticket did in the Son of Sam. Not very variable and could be accounted for. Some things were out of control, no matter how much he may wish it to be otherwise. At least when he got out of the house, the chances of discovery were significantly reduced. If only fucking Sean Grady followed the rules. They were there for a reason. He wouldn't be here now, driving the dark street looking for police, waiting for them to swoop out of the sky and nab him. Remembering the man arrested outside Lucy's house, another idea sprang into mind. Is it possible? Could it be? Did he pull the surveillance? Did they think he had arrested the Jackal? Could the explanation for the police around Olivia's house be that simple? A smile flitted on his face and tremendous as jello, as he was still unsure. It seemed too good to be true. He cruised the streets around Olivia's house. No cops. He saw flickering lights on the TV and darkened windows with unimaginative people watching the screen and ignoring each other and wondering how much a divorce would cost them after dust settled, or gossiping about their neighbors and worrying about their lawns, or busy creating mini versions of themselves so they could repeat the family cycle of married, buy a house, have kids, retire, die. He wondered if they would do what he walked into their house, grabbed a knife from their kitchen, and went to work on them, gutting them and cutting them around all the carpet, squished crimson. When they even run? Would they scream? Would they even try to save their lives? He didn't think so. They would be too shocked to react, and by the time they think so, he'd be working with them with a knife. He had to admit he was curious, and it'd be one hell of a diversion for the police, and it would be entertaining, to say the least. From driving around, though, he could not see one cop in the area. Keeping an eye on Olivia, he could see that he needed a diversion because there was nobody here. He spent another 30 minutes searching the side streets before he decided to get on with it. He knew at some point the police would stop protecting Olivia. Security like that was too expensive to keep going forever. Still, he expected it to last a lot longer than they did. Amazing. The police were going to get fisted in the media after he took Olivia. He gripped the steering wheel and bared the teeth and thought, not my problem. He parked the car on the side street, making sure he would park without being towed or a ticket, but close enough to drive over and carry away his prize. Lucy lay motionless on the floor. Tied up as she was, he had no mobility. He had a stuffed rag in her mouth and taped it so that even if she screamed, he could hardly loud enough for anyone passing by to hear. Not that anyone would pass by at the time of night. He grabbed his backpack from the floor behind his seat and opened it. The eyes of the mouse greeting him. He ran a finger over the brow. It moved inside, and a couple checked the equipment he needed. Yep, all there. A tingle started at his guts, like he was nervous, as though he was going on his first date. It wouldn't be his first date with Olivia, but sure. At the end of it, he was going to be all the way. He slung his backpack over his shoulder and hummed Ave Maria. And that is the end of that. Oh, God, my back. Ah, man. So what that tells me is next episode is going to be very spooky. But let's see. Next episode will be the final episode. With next time us reading 30. Oh wait, oops! I copied the wrong one. Oopsie. Next time being 39 to 41. That's fine if you see the next book. Oh, oops. I mean, I needed that anyways, but still. And 184 to 201. So, next time will be the final episode. I hope you guys have a super fantastic, wonderful day. People like me fishing. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.